Ahmad Shareef, 34, and Al Raheel, 41, were both from Syria. They immigrated from Syria to America about 7 years before Al Raheel's tragic death. They were in a romantic relationship. They settled down in Pennsylvania, moving into the Lawndale area of Philadelphia. They lived in a 2-story home with their 2 teenage daughters. They stayed in the front side of the house, and another lady stayed in the back side of their house. Lawndale is a tight-knit community. They were welcomed by their neighbors, but soon the yellow house became a constant source of chaos and a scene straight out of a horror movie. Al Raheel was a nice person that was friendly towards her neighbors, but she was quiet mainly because she did not know how to speak English. They also had 2 teenage daughters together that lived in the house with them. Ahmad Shareef struggled with his mental health, and he was prescribed medicine to take daily for his mental health issues, but he refused to take his medicine. He was scary to be around and started getting a bad reputation in the neighborhood. Ahmad treated Al Raheel like his slave. Al Raheel was treated badly and suffered from domestic violence on a daily basis. Neighbors could hear Ahmad yelling at Al Raheel every day, but she couldn't escape his control because of fear and her language barrier. He made her stay in the house. She wasn't allowed to have friends or leave the house unless she was in front of the house doing chores. He withheld everything from her, including her shoes and coat. Her neighbors never saw her outside with shoes on or a coat, and every winter he sent her outside barefoot, without a coat to shovel the snow from outside their house. So sad. In the last year of Al Raheel's life, the police were called 21 times to their Lawndale house. In November 2022, Ahmad and Al Raheel were arguing, and he got mad because she stood up for herself. Ahmad didn't like the things she said to him and the names she called him, so he got a knife and took her life, leaving her laying on the kitchen floor. He called his mother and sister and told them he just took Al Raheel's life, and he didn't take his medicine that day. His mother and sister then called his neighbor that lives in the backside of their house and asked her to go check on Al Raheel, but she had no idea of the horror and shock she was about to witness.
Made that horrific discovery. Action News reporter John Paul is live at Philadelphia Police Headquarters with the update. John.
Yes, Sarah, today police released the name of the victim in this case as they continue investigating this brutal murder. And advocates want everyone to know there is help out there for anyone that finds themselves in a dangerous situation. This is the man police say is behind the grisly crime. 34-year-old Ahmad Shareef, charged with murder, possession of an instrument of crime, and abuse of a corpse. According to police, he decapitated his partner, 41-year-old Leila Al Raheel, inside the kitchen of this home on McGee Street in Lawndale.
I'm here thinking I'm going to go in, apply pressure to a wound while I call the cops to help her out. I'm not thinking that I'm going to see what I saw.
Mary Liz rents in the back of the home and made the gruesome discovery yesterday after getting a phone call for help.
It was a very horrible experience.
Sources tell 6ABC Shareef has a history of domestic disturbances involving multiple family members.
I was very surprised to hear about this case.
Women Against Abuse is a nonprofit in Philadelphia that provides help and safe places to anyone in a domestic violence situation. They do see an increase in abuse around the holidays and say victims are not alone.
As the yellow house of horror was eerily illuminated with Christmas lights, neighbors were happy the man who terrified them and their families was finally behind bars without bail. The house was terrible, and Ahmad came off to people as being unhinged. It was a house of horrors, and people felt bad for their 2 daughters who had to witness the way their father mistreated their mother. It's a good thing they weren't home when he took their mother's life. Every day, he forced her to clean the house and go outside barefoot after being ordered to do chores like cleaning up after dogs, hauling garbage in and out of the house, and cleaning up the outside of the property. At times, they would have up to 10 of Ahmad's family members living in their house and garage. People stayed with them on and off. Ahmad and another man who lived there behaved aggressively toward others on the street, threatened neighbors, and got into fights around the neighborhood. Ahmad sometimes walked around talking to himself. He was also a creepy guy who exposed himself to people and always came outside wearing only boxer shorts, a habit that some nearby residents said left them unsettled.
In this neighborhood describe the family or the people that live in this home here behind me. They were using the words like chaos and constant drama and irate and bizarre behaviors. Now we want to show you that home. It's the one that's decorated with all of the lights here behind me. I just hung up with police who confirmed that not long after a 911 call came from inside the home by a witness earlier today, they discovered a 41-year-old woman dead on the kitchen floor. They say her head was severed. Neighbors say they're not at all shocked or surprised about a deadly stabbing that happened on their tight-knit block of McGee Street around lunchtime.
There's always fights, there's always quarrels, people in and out of the house constantly, and it's never good. The yellow house is the worst house on the block.
Upon arrival, we have found a witness as well as a victim laying on the floor inside. As a result of discussion with the witness, we identified a person of interest who has subsequently been detained.
Police confirmed the woman who lives here was stabbed to death. Naisha Richardson fears domestic violence may have escalated to this horrible end of life.
She runs in and out of the house barefoot. She really never goes anywhere else. She carries all of their bags and they scream at her.
The suspect, who police cannot say yet his relationship to the victim, was captured 6 blocks away near Robbins and Rising Sun.
Just to hear this, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. That man is unhinged and he's terrifying.
It did come out for a stabbing, so I really couldn't tell you the extent of the wound or the injuries.
Neighbors say the man, now in police custody, runs outside of the house, often halfway clothed, and has threatened other residents to the point one family moved away. The couple who lives here has young daughters. Police say no children were home at the time of the crime.
Ahmad's neighbors called the cops on him several times. The police received 21 calls in 2022 for his property, but some calls were never responded to by police, and the other calls did not result in Ahmed being arrested. 7 of those calls to the 2-story home on McGee Avenue were for reports of domestic disturbances. One of the calls was for a person with a gun, and some of the others were reports of fights between a man and a woman. Even though Ahmad had Al Raheel working like his slave all day, every day, and barking orders at her, their neighbors made complaints to the city about all of the trash they had around their property. They had old beds and pieces of wood, along with other debris outside their house. The Department of Licenses and Inspections said inspectors visited their house in September 2021 to see whether their garage had been illegally converted into a living space, but were unable to gain access. The inspector issued violations for excessive weeds and combustible storage on the property. A neighbor said the grown men in the house didn't do anything. There were grown men in that house, but she was the smallest of them all and did all the labor outside. Ahmad had earlier brushes with the law court records show. In October 2016, Ahmad was arrested for a DUI in West Philadelphia. He didn't show up for court, and there was a bench warrant for his arrest. 2 years earlier, he was arrested after getting into a fight in Northwest Philadelphia. He pleaded guilty to a summary offense of disorderly conduct and was given no jail time. This is a very tragic story. Ahmad got away with most of his crimes for years, and I wonder if the cops would have arrested him once out of the 21 times they were called to his home. Could this situation have been prevented? I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.